Okay, crochet 101 if your grandma didn't teach you. So we'll start with the very basics today. We'll just talk quickly about what you need to start. Honestly, you don't need much. To be fair, you need scissors. So any scissors you have in your house. You need some crochet hooks and yarn. At the end, I'll also show a few extra things that you could possibly get. So let's start with crochet hooks. I honestly have a lot. I got them super cheap. I think from somewhere like Teddy in Germany, like a dollar store. Nothing fancy. This one was fancy and I think it's my least favorite. What I like is this padded handle. I find it more comfortable. It has a good grip. They were, once again, you don't need to overspend. You need different sizes. You don't need this many, but they just came in a package, right? And I think it was like under 10 euros. The smallest one, so you need to pay attention to the size. The smallest one I have is 2 millimeter. You see very, very tiny. And then the thickest is 8. Much bigger. So I'd say get at least a couple of sizes depending on what you want to make. And I would recommend padded. Once again, I'm not a pro, but I love these ones. It was my first purchase and it just worked. Then you need yarn. So yarn could go from something very, very, very thin like this to something very thick like this. So one point is thickness, another one is what it's made of, right? So depending on your project, you'll need to pick a correct type of yarn. So different types of yarns. Very beginner friendly, but not very good for the environment. And in general, I mean, it is just pure plastic. It's acrylic. Acrylic's cheap, very easy to use, easy to wash, etc., but it is plastic. So I have some acrylic yarns. It's good for like dog bandana, for example, because they get dirty and wool would get very heavy and you can only hand wash it. So acrylic yarn, then we have acrylic and wool mix, then we have more acrylic and wool mix, then you have acrylic, wool, and alpaca, I think. Hold on, let me see. No, this is actually just wool and alpaca mix. Then we have 100% wool. Right, so there's so many different options. So, oh, and also you have cotton. Cotton, I have had only bad experience with. I want to retry because this is recycled cotton and this is pretty thin. So this is the only one that I've tried and I really did not like the look or working with it. And cotton is obviously great. It's a great material, so I would love to love it. But so far, don't have good things to say. What you also need to look at is thickness. So think of what you want to make. If you are making, so you want something more substance, right? So this coaster set was made with this. It's pretty thick, right? Thick yarn. Then you want something more dainty. For example, this is a neck piece, right? Like a collar. Much more dainty. I was using this very thin, very thin. So pick based on that. There's stats usually on the side of the yarn. However, be careful. It says a recommended needle or hook size. So for example, this is 2.5 recommended, and this recommends number 3. What? Like, this is so thick. This is crazy, right? Like that should not be the case. So you would think that these probably are similar just based on this. But then you also need to look at the knitting tension. So knitting tension is how many columns and rows you would have in a 10 by 10 centimeter square. So obviously the higher the number, the thinner the yarn. And then you would also look at the weight. So for example, this is 50 grams and it is just over 200 meters, and this is 100 grams and this is over 200 meters. If you're buying online, you gotta make sure you're getting the correct size. Now let's talk about a few other things that you might want to get. So another one is crochet needles. These are not like sewing needles, they're much, much thicker. You don't have to get it, but they're pretty cheap. You could use a small crochet hook, because once you finish a crochet project, you have these ends that you need to sew in. You could use a crochet hook, but I don't recommend it. So I would pick a crochet needle. Get a few different sizes. Potentially you might need So this, you use it to, obviously for thick yarn you don't need it, but for if you have grubby fingers like me, you would use this to insert the yarn into the needle. So you put this in here. I'll show this in the next video. Anyway, and possibly for more complicated projects, you might need these little markers. So what you do, if let's say you have some sort of change in, I don't know, however many like rows in or whatever, you can mark it, and then once you go back, you'll know where to like restart the new pattern. But also you could just use something else. That's kind of all you need for the basics.